California's most famous road is dying. Highway 1, the $500 million coastal highway that took 18 years to build, is collapsing into the Pacific Ocean. Not in one spot, not in two spots. In over a dozen locations along 60 miles of coastline, entire sections of road are simply vanishing. In seconds. Families are trapped inside Big Sur right now, with walls of mud 40 feet high crashing down around them. Rescue helicopters can't reach them. The roads they came in on no longer exist. But here's what has engineers in complete panic. The highway isn't randomly falling apart. It's failing systematically, section by section, mile by mile, as if the ground itself has decided it's done holding on. And geologists just detected something underneath the mountain that nobody wants to talk about. The road is gone. But what's coming next may be so much worse. So the real question isn't whether Highway 1 can be repaired. The real question is Big Sur about to lose something that can never, ever be rebuilt? December 23rd, 4:15 a.m., Pacific Standard Time. Caltrans ground sensors along Highway 1 near Rocky Creek Bridge detect movement patterns that exceed every safety threshold in the system. Engineers monitoring the data from San Luis Obispo stare at readings that should not be possible. The highway is shifting beneath the weight of water-saturated soil at rates measuring 2 inches per hour. Within minutes, emergency protocols activate across the entire Central Coast. By 5:47 a.m., the waiting is over. A 200-foot section of Highway 1 near Big Sur plunges into the Pacific Ocean with a thunderous roar that residents describe as sounding like an earthquake. The iconic coastal highway that took 18 years to build simply vanishes in less than 30 seconds. Caltrans emergency teams scramble to close access points, but several tourist vehicles are already trapped between the collapse zone and intact sections of road. There is no way out. At 6:30 a.m., the second major collapse strikes at Mud Creek, the exact location of the massive 2017 landslide that took 14 months and $54 million to repair. This time, a 150-foot wide section disappears, taking 3 vehicles with it into the churning ocean below. California Highway Patrol receives desperate calls from motorists watching the road ahead simply cease to exist. Then a third collapse near Ragged Point, a fourth near Plaskett Creek, a fifth, a sixth. A terrifying pattern emerges. The highway is not failing randomly. It is failing systematically along a 60-mile corridor as atmospheric rivers continue pounding the coast with rainfall rates exceeding 6 inches per hour. By 8 a.m., Highway 1 closes completely from Cambria to Carmel. Big Sur is entirely cut off from the outside world. The numbers are devastating. California Highway Patrol reports 47 vehicles trapped between collapsed zones. Over 180 tourists and residents are stranded with 0 ground evacuation possible. Emergency helicopter operations launch immediately, but winds of 90 miles per hour and 0 visibility make air rescue nearly impossible. Big Sur is not just isolated, it is disappearing. The highway is not the only thing falling apart. The mountains themselves are coming down. Near the Nepenthe restaurant area, witnesses report a 40-foot wall of mud and debris crashing down the mountainside with a sound like thunder. There are an estimated 500,000 cubic yards of earth in motion, enough to bury entire city blocks under dozens of feet of debris. It moves fast, faster than anyone can run, faster than anyone can drive, faster than anyone expected. The Ventura Wilderness experiences mudslides measuring 2 miles long and 300 feet wide. Pfeiffer Big Sur State Park vanishes completely beneath an estimated 3 million cubic yards of mud. transforming a landscape that millions of people have visited and loved into something unrecognizable. Emergency responders describe arriving at locations they have known for years and finding nothing. No trees, no buildings, no roads. Just vast, silent fields of debris stretching in every direction. Historic Big Sur properties that survive decades of storms disappear in minutes. Dietjen's Big Sur Inn evacuates just minutes before a massive mudslide destroys every access road leading to the property. Post Ranch Inn guests face emergency airlift by Coast Guard helicopters as the luxury resort becomes completely unreachable by any ground route. Staff at Esalen Institute find themselves entirely cut off, slides blocking Highway 1 in both directions with no escape possible. Julia Pfeiffer Burns. State Park experiences catastrophic slope failure near the iconic McWay Falls area. The Big Sur. Volunteer fire brigade logs 15 major mudslide events in just 4 hours. Cell towers topple under the weight of moving earth, cutting communications completely. Communities go dark and silent, invisible to the outside world. By noon, the scope of what is happening becomes impossible to deny. This is not a series of separate mudslides. This is a region being systematically buried under millions of tons of earth all at once. USGS geological surveys confirm what responders on the ground already know. Water saturation levels across the Santa Lucia Mountains have reached 400% above normal capacity. The mountains are not just wet, they are dissolving. At the USGS headquarters in Menlo Park, geologists stare at data coming in from Big Sur that defies everything they understand about slope stability. Dr. Sarah Chen, lead geologist, reviews soil saturation measurements that exceed anything in the geological record. The numbers are not just alarming, they are scientifically impossible under conditions that were considered normal 48 hours ago. The Santa Lucia Mountains are holding 400% more water than their maximum stability threshold. To understand what that means, consider the weight. Each cubic meter of saturated soil weighs over 2 tons. Multiply that across billions of cubic meters of mountainous terrain, pressing against slopes that were never designed to carry this load, and the math becomes terrifying. The mountains are not just wet, they are collapsing under their own weight. UC Berkeley seismologists detect something even more disturbing. Unusual ground vibration patterns are appearing beneath Big Sur. The data suggests the immense weight of water-saturated Earth is triggering microseismic events in the underlying geology. The ground is not just sliding, it is shaking itself apart from the inside. Satellite measurements confirm what ground sensors are detecting. Hillsides are moving at 3 to 5 inches per hour across multiple square miles simultaneously. That rate of movement has never been recorded before anywhere in California's geological history. Dr. Michael Torres at UC San Diego's Scripps Institution puts the current disaster into context. The 2017 Mud Creek landslide moved 6 million cubic yards of earth. At the time, engineers called it a once-in-a-century event. Current mudslides have already exceeded that volume, and the atmospheric rivers feeding the disaster show absolutely no signs of weakening. Those atmospheric rivers are carrying water vapor equivalent to 15 Mississippi rivers flowing through the sky simultaneously. Integrated water vapor transport readings measure 1,600 kilograms per meter per second. Normal winter storms rarely exceed 500. Climate models never predicted atmospheric rivers of this intensity arriving until 2040 or later. They arrived in 2024, decades ahead of every projection, catching scientists, engineers, and emergency planners completely unprepared. The climate system is not changing on schedule. It is accelerating beyond anything science predicted. The Martinez family from San Diego woke to the sound of the ground shaking beneath their Big Sur rental cabin. A 40-foot mudslide stopped just 50 feet from their front door. Inside are 3 children under 10 years old and an elderly grandmother who requires daily medications that are running out. There are no escape routes. Every road leading out of Big Sur is either collapsed or buried. They wait for helicopter rescue in weather conditions that make air operations nearly impossible, watching the storm intensify around them through windows streaked with mud and rain. Sarah Thompson is 68 years old. She has lived in Big Sur for 4 decades. Her home disappears under 20 feet of mud in less than 3 minutes. She escapes with her 2 dogs and nothing else. Everything she built over 40 years, every photograph, every piece of furniture, every memory attached to every room, vanishes beneath the debris flow. She tells emergency responders that this was all she had in the world. There is nothing left to go back to. Not even the ground her house once stood on. Big Sur Volunteer Fire Department. Captain Mike Rodriguez coordinates rescues with only 8 personnel. Their equipment sits trapped behind Highway 1 collapse zones, completely unreachable. Coast Guard helicopters attempt rescues in winds hitting 90 miles per hour, winds that exceed safe operation limits for air rescue. Pilots rely entirely on instruments because visibility has dropped to 0. In the first 12 hours, 47 people are successfully evacuated by air. It is an extraordinary effort under impossible conditions, and it is nowhere near enough. At Post Ranch Inn, Ventana Big Sur, and Esalen Institute, over 300 combined employees and guests are trapped with no resupply possible and no timeline for rescue. Emergency shelters in Monterey and Carmel receive Big Sur evacuees arriving in profound shock. Children cry. Elderly residents require immediate medical care. Families arrive with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Shelter volunteers describe people sitting in complete silence, staring at nothing, processing a loss that has no comparison. Their homes were not burned. They were not swept away by floodwater. They were buried under walls of mud so deep that nothing will ever be recovered. The human cost of Big Sur's collapse is immeasurable. The financial cost is becoming very clear, and it is staggering. Start with the road itself. The 2017 Mud Creek landslide was a single collapse at a single location. It took 14 months and $54 million to repair. What is happening now is not a single collapse. Caltrans engineers survey a 60-mile corridor with over a dozen major failure sites and deliver an initial estimate that stops budget officials cold. Repairs will exceed $500 million, and that number assumes the ground stops moving. It has not stopped moving. Big Sur's entire economy runs through Highway 1. There is no alternate route. There is no backup plan. The region generates $1.2 billion in tourism revenue every single year, and every dollar of it depends on that road being open. The moment Highway 1 closes, that revenue does not slow down. It does not decrease. It drops to 0. Christmas week alone typically brings $80 million in tourism spending to the Central Coast. That money is gone. Central Coast communities that depend on Highway 1 for basic supplies now receive emergency provisions by helicopter at 10 times normal transportation costs. Restaurants that have served Big Sur for decades sit empty, supplies rotting, staff unable to reach work. Art galleries holding irreplaceable collections are completely inaccessible. Small hotels representing generations of family investment face bankruptcy, even if their buildings survive, because without the road, there are no guests. Agricultural losses compound the economic devastation. Farms isolated by the collapse watch crops rot in fields with no way to transport them to market. Dairy operations cannot ship milk. Organic produce operations see entire harvests decompose. The regional food supply chain collapses not because farms were destroyed, but because the transportation network that connects them to the world no longer exists. Insurance claims in the Big Sur region alone exceed $3 billion. And ecological damage extends the financial reckoning far beyond property lines. Millions of tons of sediment pour into Pacific marine sanctuaries. Kelp forests suffocate under debris. Fish populations flee. Endangered species lose critical habitat that took centuries to develop and cannot simply be replaced. Highway 1 was never supposed to exist. Construction began in 1919 through terrain that engineers described as impossible to stabilize permanently. It took 18 years to complete. Convict labor carved the road from sheer cliffs above the Pacific, using hand tools and dynamite, cutting through geology that pushed back at every stage. When it finally opened in 1937, engineers celebrated it as a triumph of human determination over natural obstacles. What nobody said out loud was that the obstacles had not gone away. They had simply been temporarily managed. The history of Highway 1 is a history of collapse and repair. The 1983 storms triggered major landslides that closed the highway for months and caused $50 million in damage. The 1998 El Niño brought catastrophic failures requiring $100 million in repairs. The 2017 Mud Creek slide moved 6 million cubic yards of earth, the largest landslide in California history at the time. Engineers called it a once-in-a-century event. It took 14 months and $54 million to rebuild that single section. The 2024 Christmas floods have now exceeded every one of those historical precedents combined, and the rain has not stopped. Caltrans engineers conducting damage assessments identify 15 additional high-risk sections of Highway 1 showing imminent collapse indicators beyond those that have already failed. Some of these sections, engineers warn, may be permanently unsafe for reconstruction, regardless of how much money is spent. The debate inside engineering circles is no longer simply about cost. It is about geological reality. Some engineers argue the entire Big Sur corridor should be abandoned. When atmospheric rivers of unprecedented intensity can strike every few years, the cost to repeatedly rebuild a highway through geologically unstable terrain becomes mathematically unsustainable. Alternative proposals include a tunnel system bored directly through the Santa Lucia Mountains at an estimated cost exceeding $10 billion. Others suggest accepting seasonal-only access, closing the road each winter, and accepting that Big Sur becomes unreachable for months at a time. Beneath all these proposals sits a question that nobody in California government wants to formally answer. Should Highway 1 be rebuilt at all? And if it should not, what does that mean for every community, every business, and every family whose entire existence depends on that road? The disaster is not over. It is about to get worsen. The National Weather Service issues forecasts that send emergency planners into immediate crisis mode. Another atmospheric river is approaching the California coast, and this one carries even more moisture than the system's currently devastating Big Sur. Computer models show it making landfall in 48 hours. The forecast calls for 10 to 20 additional inches of rainfall across a region where the ground is already holding 400% more water than it can handle. Hillsides that cannot absorb a single additional drop face guaranteed further collapse. The question emergency managers cannot answer is a simple one. How do you evacuate areas where the roads no longer exist? USGS issues a rare extreme landslide danger. Warning for the entire Santa Lucia mountain range. Satellite imagery reveals dozens of additional hillsides showing critical failure indicators beyond those that have already collapsed. The ground is not stabilizing. It is waiting. Climate scientists analyzing the broader pattern find no comfort in the data. Atmospheric rivers are intensifying faster than any model predicted. The Pacific Coast from Washington state to Mexico faces similar geological vulnerability. Highways, bridges, buildings, and power systems designed for 20th century weather patterns are simply inadequate for the climate reality that is arriving decades ahead of schedule. Emergency planners are fighting the last war, preparing for disasters that pale in comparison to what is actually occurring. The jet stream disruption driving California's catastrophe is not a local phenomenon. It is part of a hemisphere-wide reorganization of weather patterns. Europe is experiencing unprecedented flooding simultaneously. The Arctic is recording temperatures 20 degrees above normal. Big Sur is not an isolated tragedy. It is a single data point in a global pattern that is accelerating beyond every projection scientists confidently made just 5 years ago. Climate models placed storm systems of this intensity in the year 2040. They arrived in 2024, 16 years early, and caught every level of government, science, and emergency response completely flat-footed. The political calculus is brutal and unavoidable. Invest billions now in prevention infrastructure, or spend trillions later on repeated disaster response. Every major storm forces the same debate. Every disaster produces the same calls for preparation that fade as memories dim and budget pressures mount. Big Sur's collapse may finally make that choice impossible to defer. 1 week after the first section of Highway 1 fell into the Pacific, Big Sur remains severed from the outside world in over a dozen locations. Recovery timeline assessments arriving from engineering firms across the country deliver the same conclusion in different language. Months to fully assess the damage. Years to rebuild sections that can be rebuilt. And some sections, the assessments quietly note, may never be rebuilt safely at all. The immediate rescue operations are winding down. The final stranded residents are being evacuated. The crisis phase, as emergency managers define it, is ending. But what replaces the crisis is not recovery. It is a reckoning. Big Sur's community faces questions that have no clean answers. Will residents be allowed to rebuild in collapse zones? Insurance companies are already signaling that coverage for properties in high-risk geological areas may no longer be available at any price. Some residents say they will return regardless. This is their home. This is where their lives exist. The idea of surrendering it to a mudslide feels like a second loss on top of the first. But the ground beneath their homes is not the same ground it was 2 weeks ago. And the storms that reshaped it are not finished arriving. California stands at a crossroads that the state has approached before and stepped back from every time. Do communities rebuild in places that geology and climate are reclaiming? Or does society finally accept that some locations are no longer compatible with permanent human habitation? Highway 1's collapse forces that question into the open in a way that is impossible to dismiss. The images of road sections hanging in midair before plunging into the ocean circulate global. The videos of mudslides erasing homes in minutes are impossible to ignore. The world watches California confront a future that looks increasingly familiar to coastal regions everywhere. The climate crisis is not a distant threat moving slowly toward us on the horizon. It is here. It is accelerating. And it is reshaping the physical geography of places that millions of people call home. The road collapsed into the Pacific Ocean. But the questions it left behind have no bottom.